Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest bizarre developments involving a female dentist who went missing. Britney Spears is in the news because her ex, Kevin Federline, has written a book that has some scandalous accusations, an extreme interpretation of Bring Your Child to Work Day, a scandal involving a fake baby, and a funeral home that presented a family with the wrong body. Then we'll end the episode with some of your questions and emails. All that and more on today's episode. Let's talk about this dentist story because it is bizarre.
Yeah, so I saw this story circulating online about this Georgia dentist. She was reported missing after she didn't show up to work last week. Police went to go do a welfare check. They found her phone was left behind, but her wallet and her car was gone. The car was later found abandoned in a parking lot. So the news was reporting that she was found safe after a former patient saw her at the mall. However, her husband has posted on Facebook that she's not safe and is seemingly with a man she is scared of.
Yeah. And let me read the Facebook post to you. It says, so it's on her Facebook page, correct?
Well, I went on it and I didn't see it on her Facebook page. I saw he posted it on his and it was reshared to hers. So this screenshot has me questioning that unless it was originally posted on hers and then was deleted.
So it says, this is Leslie. Melanie is not safe. She was observed being dragged around a market by the person she is with. She is being manipulated and controlled. When confronted by the gentleman who spotted them because she was his dentist, the guy said she was starting to yell at him. She is so scared of the person she is with, she is not forthright with the police. He was charged with beating one of his wives. She is in a mental health crisis and needs professional help and intervention immediately. The police do not know and do not do her any justice whatsoever and let them both leave. If anyone sees her, please do not leave and call, this is weird, 988 and share her location. What's 988? I don't know.
I don't even know, but the husband was traveling out of state at the time, so I don't know if one of her employees at the dentist office, or I don't even know if she was the main dentist there. If somebody at her work called him and said she never showed up or whatever, but he's the one that reported her missing.
The police and a lot of her family and friends said that was very out of character.
Yeah, and the police are saying, quote, "We would like to reassure everyone that Melanie was not in any danger and there is no indication of foul play. However, there's all these unconfirmed reports now that this man she's with is allegedly a man she's been having an affair with for 10 years, and he was also reported missing, and his wife went on his computer, found a secret Yahoo account, and exposed the whole affair." These are unconfirmed reports, but this is what is circulating online.
Yeah, it's like such juicy drama. Apparently, so this woman's husband and the woman were going to her as patients at the dentist. Like, she was their dentist.
How are you looking in somebody? Don't they say dentists have like the highest mental health, the highest rate of mental health problems because they're like staring into mouths all day?
Really? I don't know if that's true. I just think that there's much more stressful jobs than that. Like, honestly.
Well, I don't know, but I remember reading probably 5 to 10 years ago that dentists had the highest suicide rate out of any medical profession. And I just, I'm bringing that up
because their job's boring. That's the only thing I could think of.
No, there's something else. I shouldn't even say it because I don't even know the full details of it. But basically what I'm getting at is, how do you go from looking at someone's mouth, which is like pretty disgusting, to be like, oh, we're going to bang later on? I just can't understand it.
Yeah, I don't either. And the whole entire thing. So now a lot of people are speculating that the husband is making this post saying that she's mentally unwell and she's there against her will to kind of save face because he's embarrassed that she was having an affair or something. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of, especially if the friends were saying it's out of character, it is a little bizarre when you're a wife and a mother and you own something like a dental practice to just not show up one day and not be available by phone to the point where they're reporting that you're missing on the news. That to me does imply that there's some kind of a mental health crisis going on.
Because also, if you were both gonna fake your own kidnappings or whatever, fake their own disappearances, why are you going out in public and seemingly somewhat local to where you went missing from? This seems very unusual.
It is. There's just way more to the story. But I think that there's definitely some. I mean, you could totally see that people do this all the way. That's why there's a term like run away together. Let's run away together. Like,
Yeah, but I'm just picturing
they literally
ourselves.
try to, I think.
Think about you see that Dr. Don's missing, right? And then you're at the Cherry Hill Mall and you see him walking around and you're like, hey, Dr. Don, do you realize you're missing? Why are you
Yeah.
here?
And how could you be? Because she's not that old, right?
No, I think she's in her early 50s.
Yeah. So she's a person that goes on the internet, you suppose. Like, there's no way that she didn't know that her face was plastered everywhere, because people, obviously, when family reports that a person's missing and it's out of character and it's a young woman, you're like, oh God, someone kidnapped her and killed her. Like, that's, I think Dr. Priya even put a post up that was just like, hopefully this woman's found safe. And like, people were genuinely concerned that she was missing.
Well, of course. And like, now that all these other details are coming out, it's kind of a little bit reminding me of that Sherry Papini story. There's just a lot of details not adding up. Actually, we have 2 stories on this episode that remind me of stories we talked about on our episode with Dr. Leslie Dobson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's
so
the other one? I'm just
the
curious.
fake pregnancy scandal.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
But
So
that's later on.
yeah. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on with this. If we hear any updates, we'll talk about it, because this could, first it's suspicion of a kidnapping / homicide, and now we're talking about some serious psych issues, perhaps. So just we'll keep you updated if we hear anything more on this.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean to make light of it. I mean, she could very well still be a kidnapping victim in some regard, but I just need
I don't
more
know.
details.
The wife just found 10-year evidence of a relationship, so I mean, I guess you could be kidnapped, but
that's what Sherry Papini was arguing, that she was having an affair with that guy and he got disgruntled and kidnapped her.
Yeah,
Even though the
All right.
police called total bullshit.
we have
on that.
bigger mental health issues this week, and we're talking about Britney Spears and all of these revelations that have been made in Kevin Federline's new book.
All right, so Kevin Federline, who is Britney Spears' ex-husband, father of her children, he's coming out with this new memoir, and along with that, he's making accusations like she did cocaine while she breastfed and wanted her sons dead. These are serious things to be putting out there.
They're serious, but they're kind of believable, honestly. Like, I've seen her, and I love her, and I feel terrible for her. I really think that she has a terrible life, and I've always said this. But you've seen her on social media over the past couple of years. Like, there's just like something's not right there.
No, she's 100% not mentally well, and it's not that I don't believe these stories, but I'm gonna sit here and say I think it's kind of gross that he's writing this book, because she's clearly a mentally unwell person. So you're gonna like air out all her shit like that?
Well, I think that he has determined that the relationship with her sons is forever tarnished, and he was just kind of like,
I think
listen,
his child support just ended and he needs some money, and that's why he wrote this book.
it's totally possible, but like, at the same time, it could very well be true. I wouldn't, anything that he said doesn't seem like it would be out of the realm of possibility. I mean, when you think about her life and what she kind of was thrown into, and just think about being like a teenager, a normal teenager, and getting thrown into this life, being a huge sex symbol when you're a teenager, which was weird anyway.
It's very disturbing.
It's just like the Baby One More Time video is freaking weird when you look at it with 2025 eyes, thinking that that's a child. And just the way that, when you're that kind of an entity, everyone around you uses the shit out of you to make money off of you, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, I want to talk about that. So let's start off with the cocaine part of this. So Kevin Federline is claiming that he had an album release party in 2006, which, like, why are you relevant to be having an album release party? Because you're married to Britney Spears. And she was supposed to be staying home with the sons, who at the time were 1 year old and 1 month old. But later on, she shows up to the party, which surprised him with her dad. And he's claiming that he walked in on her doing cocaine with an unnamed actress. So then they went home later that night, and he claims he begged her not to breastfeed the kids, and she did it anyway, and that's when their marriage was over. Although, I want to say, I read her book, and obviously, as disclosed, she's not fully there, and the book could be whatever, it's just her perspective. But she's saying the reason their marriage ended was because the fame and money was really corrupting him. And I could totally see that being a problem too.
Yeah, I mean, totally. But that was around, what year was that with the cocaine? I'm just curious.
In 2006.
Okay, so if you recall, a few months after that, that's when she had her infamous breakdown, like publicly, with the umbrella and the glass and the shaved head and all that. You know, when she had that like episode with the paparazzi and everything. And also listen to what you said. She has a 1-year-old and a 1-month-old, which means her kids have an 11-month interval between them. That's very short. So she was pregnant essentially back to back, right? I mean, she definitely seems like, did she ever admit or say she was diagnosed with postpartum depression or psychosis or anything like that?
No, but like this is what I said after her book came out, is that I think she was already verging on having what I call child star syndrome, which is you're just like off because of that, right? And then she has the back-to-back pregnancies, and I think she was having severe postpartum depression, if not postpartum psychosis, which we talked about at our Dark Side show over the weekend. And everybody in her life was just blowing her off like she was crazy, and then they were putting her on lithium and all these crazy drugs, and then just being like, oh, she's crazy. And I think she was genuinely struggling with something so serious, and everybody was blowing her off.
Yeah, and there was a lot too. Like, you know, this is the thing. You make this child a sex symbol because you could really say that most people when they're 16 years old have, like, that's usually when your body is like the most slamming, right? Because you're young and your skin's tight and you know. Then she has 2 kids. I'll never forget, she did a performance after she had the kids, and her body, she's still skinny as hell, but like she had a belly, like she looked like it wasn't as flat as it was before. It just looked like more normal now, I guess. And everybody was just talking shit on her, and like she never really bounced back from that. She never came out with another album and like was the Britney that was prior to having the kids, which a lot of women can relate to. Like, things change when you have kids for your own life, right?
I mean, that's not necessarily true. 'Cause she did have an album and a residency after that was kind of bringing back her old ways, but of course she's not 100% herself. And then I think that residency ended up, I don't remember what she said about it in the book, if she had a bad time or if she reflected on it positively, but I feel like that was the real turning point when she was like really, really, really going off the rails and had to kind of go in hiding in her house.
Yeah, I mean, I just do feel terrible for her. And then, of course, she meets up with this guy, and she just did it again, though. Didn't she just like have a quick marriage with some super way too hot guy that was like a secure? Who was he?
Yeah,
like,
but he's complicit too, because it's like she's out of her mind and doesn't know what she's doing, and the people are using her. And I'm just saying, like, she's having this baby, and like you're saying, she had to do a performance right after she gives birth. Imagine the pressure that your whole family is making money off of you, and if you just want to take off, you can't because everybody's relying on you.
oh, I know that pressure actually. But seriously, I do understand that, but I always try to look at situations from both sides, and from his perspective, it's like he was kind of forced to be a single dad and have to deal with the mess up. I mean, not because the mom's dead, the mom's still there, and the mom is still like inducing trauma into the children's lives and just trying to give the kids as much of a normal life as possible with her. You know, she publicly comes out and says all this stuff, and now it's like the boys are old enough to realize what's happening, and it's just really sad when children aren't with their mother in the first place.
No, totally. But I also want to bring up the argument, like, from all accounts, I've heard he's this wonderful dad and everything, so I don't want to downplay that. But if he really wanted to separate himself from her, he should have made something of himself, stopped accepting money from her, because they're still living off of her.
But like, he was raising her kids.
I know
He
that, but I'm
deserves to
just
get
saying,
money. Like,
if he
listen, if
wanted
you're
no association with her whatsoever, he should have said, I'm good, step back, and not taken it. Yes, he
Yeah.
has a right to have it, but
he
wants to
actually
sit
got
there.
he got cheated because $40,000 a month when your mom is Britney Spears is like really not that much child support.
It's not,
Honestly.
but like, he made the decision to marry her. He made the decision to have children with her. It's part of the deal. I'm not saying it's fair, but I think this book is gross. I think even if their relationship with the children and her has been established to be terrible, it's still gross that their father is putting this out there. You know, the number one rule of divorce is the parents should not talk shit on each other. It doesn't matter if the kids are 5 or 45. You should not be talking shit on the other parent. And that's exactly how I see it. I am a child that did not, their parents were not together my whole life, and I see this as being gross.
Yeah, but it's just a different situation. I don't know, like, he's been dragged through the mud as well and still is to this day. And maybe he just wanted to be like, let me tell you what was going on behind the scenes from my perspective.
I understand that, and he has a right to do it. I'm just saying, I think it's gross that
And
he did it.
I mean, you have to commend him in a certain degree, because for a man to take over little kids like that and raise them and try to, and like, listen, I don't know what the hell's going on at his house. It might not be normal, but it seems like they have a semi-stable life considering like what's going on at her house. I mean, it's just it's a lot to take on, and like,
Boo fucking who? Because the women are supposed to do it? I just don't have sympathy. He made the decision to have children, so like, part of that is like, what if the mother dies? Guess what? A dad has to do it too. Is he extra special because he's a man and he did it? Like, they should be doing it. It's like when men say, "Oh, I'm babysitting my kids today." They're your fucking kids. You're not babysitting them. They're your kids.
yeah, but we're not talking about if it's a man or a woman. Just if a woman had to do that too, it's, I mean, like, women do it every single day, and
That's what I'm saying.
it's fine. But I'm saying in this particular situation with Britney Spears, just because those kids didn't really have a chance to have any kind of a normal, stable life, and he could have went, he could have been seeing, going to strip clubs every night and like blowing money on drugs, but he had them in a stable environment.
But do you think it's stable that now they're in their 20s and their father just wrote a book exposing all this horrible stuff their mother did, and now they're going to be burdened by the internet and paparazzi and the press?
Well, I'm sure that
this is what I'm getting at.
I'm sure that, listen, like, if you're a child that grows up that was rejected by your parent, and also your parent actually told you that they wished you were dead, I'm pretty sure that like they're egging it on and just like, yeah, fuck yeah, expose that bitch. Right? Like,
well, if she was a normal person, I'd say go for it, but she is clearly mentally ill. So like, where do you draw the line? We're not talking about a person that's seemingly living life regularly and just is like, has crazy tendencies. Like, she is not okay.
I don't know, but so let's talk about if she really did use cocaine during breastfeeding, because if you use cocaine while you're pregnant, it's obviously it's a big no-no, and it is when you are breastfeeding as well, because from a toxicology standpoint, the breast milk will test positive for cocaine and its metabolites. And one of the most disturbing things, I don't know why I think this is so disturbing, when parents use drugs and they are breastfeeding, especially in this case with cocaine, the urine would be positive for cocaine. So if your baby got a urine test, it would be positive for cocaine, as if they were a drug user. It's kind of just sad and disturbing. And in some cases like that, especially when there's cases of neglect and a history of drug use, that could actually get your child taken away from you if your child tests positive. But let me tell you this interesting. So cocaine's a drug that gets out of your system pretty fast. So they say, like, if Britney Spears was legitimately doing coke that night, if she would have just not breastfed and dumped her milk for 24 hours, she would have been okay again to breastfeed the kid. That's what they say, that you should
That's
wait like
insane.
24 hours. It's a fast drug. That's why a lot of people could do it that are getting drug tested, because if you have a couple days off, you could do it and it's out of your system fast. So, let me tell you about this one case though. A woman who was breastfeeding her 1-week-old daughter reported using a dab of cocaine on her lower gum and nursing her infant with no effect. So there was no effect on the infant that the mom could see, and it didn't affect the sleep pattern at all of the infant. So then she thought the next week she was going to one-up it and snort a bunch of lines of cocaine over a 4-hour period. And during this time, she breastfed 5 different times. So 3 hours after the mom had first done the cocaine, she noticed that her infant became markedly irritable, had dilated pupils, began vomiting and having diarrhea. And the baby became so irritable that they finally went to the emergency room with the baby. And on examination, they said that the infant had tremors, was irritable, very easily startled after minimal stimulation, had a high pitched cry, hyperactive reflexes, hypertension, and the infant remained this way for 12 hours after the cocaine exposure, and it started easing up after 24 hours, and 72 hours later there was still increase in high blood pressure.
This makes me sick.
It's so sad, right? Babies can display symptoms of cocaine withdrawal if the mother is using while breastfeeding. So it's serious. And like, just to his defense, I don't know what's true because I don't live their lives, but like, if she's been saying this whole time, we broke up because he couldn't handle fame, and he was just like, no, actually we broke up because you did coke and you were trying to feed it to my baby. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm sorry.
No, and I'm not defending her actions. I'm just saying, like, with everything they've gone through over the last 20 years, I don't think it's right for the kids to have even more damning information about her. Like, I see it as him exploiting an extremely mentally ill person.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be said. And I believe he even said something about her being mentally ill, but
And her actions are indefensible because she's a mentally ill person. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, she's not a regular person.
yeah, I mean, really, there's just so many details to her specific case, but there's a lot of different situations that he is citing, proving that she was kind of putting the kids in dangerous situations.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's obvious.
Like ignoring their allergies, feeding a child shellfish that had an allergy. One time a son was hospitalized because he got a hold of pills. And then other like little bit weird things, like keeping the kid in diaper a little bit longer than they should have been, even after the kid was potty trained, telling the kid when he was 10 years old that he had to still take baths with the mom. Like, it was
No,
like
it's all inappropriate, obviously.
like if this is true, it seems which it very well could just be some kind of weird Freudian thing or something, that she's still trying to hold on to her childhood and she's trying to make this son not grow up and hold on to his childhood. But like, you could see these different examples of why a person was like they didn't even let her have visitation of those kids. If the thing is she's Britney Spears, so everybody's like, no, Britney, stand up for Britney. But like, if she was like some crackhead on the street around here, you'd be like, that lady sucks. She's like negligent to her kids, and like she deserves to lose her kids. You know what I mean? Like,
well, this is what I'm getting
it's the same
at, 'cause
behaviors.
I feel like what I was saying earlier is gonna come across like I'm defending what she did, and if these things are true, I'm absolutely not, and I think they're disgusting things. But like, she's not there, and that's the point I'm trying to get at.
One conversation that's serious that I guess that we just have to have as a society is, if everyone can attribute them can attribute their behaviors to and being an asshole to mental illness, then like who is really responsible for anything, and does anybody ever do any wrong? Because
Well, it depends.
you could
Like,
always just be like, well, just all these videos that I've been seeing online of these different narcissistic personality disorder, borderline, blah, 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 all these things, right? Autism and as an adult, ADD, autism, all this stuff, neurodivergent, all these words. It's just like you're literally giving every single person an excuse to just suck at life.
no, because I think there's a fine line between people that can function day to day and they have problems. And I think there's people like her that, like, I don't even think she can drive or do anything. I don't think she's a functional person like that. So
She could dance in a
think
weird
about
bikini and hold a knife.
think about somebody with schizophrenia. They're totally out of their
Yeah,
mind. Are
but
they in
she
the
doesn't
same
have,
category?
she's
No,
not been diagnosed.
I'm
Yeah.
no, I'm just using that as an example. Think of somebody with schizophrenia. Are they in the same category as somebody that's, going to work every day and being sane, but they just are a bad person, or they just are a fucking narcissist? They're not,
But
because one's a
narcissism is a
functioning person.
personality disorder, and it could
But
that
narcissists can function in society in their day-to-day life, where schizophrenics
so that's where
cannot.
you draw the line if they could function in society or not.
I feel like she's on the level of having like mental delusion and not fully being present.
Well, I don't know
So
about any of that shit.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about it. I'm just like, I just
I'm just saying that's my perspective from what I hear in Hollywood about her, from videos I observe of her behavior, everything we've seen in the press. I obviously don't know her personally, but
I mean, listen, I'm not like an anti Britney person. I do feel terrible for her, and I think if she was a guy, we would be having a totally different conversation. It's just like she's blew up so much as a 16-year-old child, and she's been under the microscope this whole entire time. So every single time, I can't imagine, just thinking back on my life of different bad periods I went through. I can't it was hard enough to go through in the privacy of my own home, let alone being in the public like that. I can't imagine what just that level of fame does to a person, and you could see it makes most of them kind of weird, honestly.
well, I kind of compare her to Judy Garland in a way, because they had similar paths in the sense of Judy Garland got so famous as a teenager from being in Wizard of Oz, and then all of a sudden, there's all this demand for her, and the studio and her agents and everybody around her are like, I don't give a shit if you're sick. Take this pill, take this pill, take this pill, and then all of a sudden you have a lifelong drug addict and her brain is fried, all at the hands of other people that are making money off of her. They're puppets.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. And she, especially with her too, it was like, if you compare someone like her to Taylor Swift, it was like Taylor Swift, which gets on my nerves, so I can't believe I'm saying this, but she kind of evolved to what she is on her own in a way. It seems like she wanted to do the music. I mean, obviously she had people helping her along the way and stuff, but Britney Spears, she seems like she was more of a performer, and they were just like she didn't make her own music. They were just like, this is who you're going to be. This is the look you're going to have. This is the song you're going to sing, and you're just going to get up there and do it. Like, yes, she's a performer.
I think
And it's just they made their money off of her for the short period, but I just think it permanently damaged the rest of her life. And it's very sad for a mom to not have raised her children and to still not have a great relationship with them, if any relationship at all. It's just really terrible to see.
I mean, this is going to be my week of book recommendations, especially for tomorrow's episode. But, like, I also think people, if they want a similar inside look with a person that wasn't quite affected, I think people should read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, because it gives a good example from the child's perspective of parents that are forcing this job on their child and how it could affect their life so deeply.
Like, I'm not into the weeds a ton on Britney Spears and this whole conservatorship and stuff, but I would say that the biggest person to blame in this situation is probably like her parents.
Oh, of course.
But didn't
And
Jamie, I forget, because I just recall this now, just scrolling through, that Jamie Lynn had said something negative about Britney in the news this
well,
week as well.
Jamie Lynn wrote a book, like everybody in her life's writing books like, "Oh, she was the worst, blah blah blah." Like, okay, well, you guys wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for her. So like that's just kind of where I'm coming at. Like, I understand Kevin Federline's had an extremely difficult time. I'm not saying what happened to him was easy, and dealing with somebody like that's not easy, but I don't think you should exploit it either.
All right, let's talk about this next case of an extreme bring your child to work day.
So, a brain surgeon in Australia allegedly allowed her 12-year-old daughter to drill a hole in a patient's skull during an emergency surgery.
Like, I don't even know what to say about this, but it is interesting because I don't know how it works in Australia, and I don't know why the kid was there. Was the kid there for? Well, it does seem like maybe the mom got called in to do this emergency surgery. Is that what happened? And then the kid tagged along.
That wasn't clarified, but this happened in January of 2024. So, they're saying a farm worker was flown to the hospital after a tree branch fell on his head. So, they said the kid was there. She reportedly had an interest in medicine. So, the mom encouraged her to get into scrubs and come in the operating room with them. And that's when the incident happened.
I
Allegedly.
don't necessarily have a problem with the kid being there because, like I was just saying, like in our country we do bring your kid to work day, and the kids always they'll say they want to go to work with Gabe, and we're just like, you can't go to work with Daddy. Like, what are you going to do if he has to leave on the fire truck? So you always wonder what to do with kids if you have important jobs. And I mean, I used to bring you to work a lot, but
Yeah.
there is I mean, you would come to work when you were definitely that age and be around bloodborne pathogens and stuff. I mean, it probably wasn't a great idea, honestly. The
Yeah, but
liability of that.
well, you weren't working with live patients, so it's a little different, but you wouldn't just be like, go grab a scalpel blade and cut this placenta open. Like, you would show me
No,
stuff, but
I would never, no, I would never put you in any kind of situation like that. But I mean, the worst thing I had you do was run slides back to the pathologist, probably, right? Like,
I mean, later I think I helped sometimes with making like frozens, but not even really. I was like under
yeah,
the
you would just
guidance,
like make the chuck for us or
and
whatever.
that's when I was an official intern. I wasn't just there.
Yeah.
I was actually an intern at
And
the
you weren't
hospital.
doing the actual specimens. You were just making like the base with the frozen stuff for
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, uh, I think the way that it went down is even more unusual because it seems as if the mom left the room to take a phone call and there was another, like a more junior surgeon in the room, and the kid did it, and it wasn't like the mom was holding it and the kid was just kind of holding it too at the same time. It was like the kid legitimately was drilling into someone's skull. And I'm assuming they were making burr holes or something like that to allow evacuation of a clot or swelling. But I guess what's scary about that, I've never worked on a skull from that perspective, but I don't know how the tools are made, if they're made in a certain way that the drill bit can't go into the brain tissue, because that would just be absolutely devastating. So I'm sure there's some kind of a way there's certain tools or tips or something to prevent something like that from happening. But what, like, why is a lawsuit coming forth? Because it seems as if the guy didn't have any complications and he was fine.
I don't think there's a lawsuit. I think that they were criminally charged.
So the patient really is like, how did this come to light? Like, somebody eventually said something about it.
So this is where it's kind of confusing, and there's conflicting reports because they're like, okay, so the senior surgeons and the junior surgeons were all fired because they were in the room and let it happen, basically. And the mother is saying, quote, my biggest mistake was letting her go to the operating table. So in some capacity, she's admitting she let her in the room, but then she's denying that they let the kid hold the drill. But then the junior surgeon is saying he was holding it the entire time, and she just kind of helped or had her hands on it too. And then another person in the room says, yeah, there was two sets of hands on it.
But didn't the mom go around bragging to people that, oh, my daughter did her first drill hole
Yeah.
or something like that. So I don't like something
would-
happened. Yeah, I hope to God she wasn't dumb enough to post something like that online, but she clearly isn't making great decisions as it is.
I would say in the room, everybody was either fine with it or they weren't going to challenge this woman if she was a senior surgeon, right? Because we see a lot of that too, where
Yeah.
other people working in the room are not going to challenge the higher up. But she did go around bragging to all her other colleagues about it. So one of those people might have been like, this is a major red flag. And then an investigation popped up. And there it went,
Yeah.
and now they're on trial. So
I mean, it's just probably not a good idea on so many levels to bring your kid to certain jobs, just because that's also just a liability of, again, the child being exposed to bone dust and just things that they really shouldn't, they're not prepared to handle. And let's say, for example, the guy coded on the table and and like the guy was dying in front of this little kid. Like, they don't need to see that shit either, you know?
no. And I guess if they're found guilty, this charge could be punishable by up to a year in prison. So was it worth losing your job and going to jail just
We need
to like brag about your kid?
we need to make a list of like doctors who sabotage their own careers over dumb shit.
Literally. This is so stupid.
Like, no, seriously, it's like becoming a theme on this show.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, this week's high-profile death dissection is something I highly encourage that you read. It is based on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and it is about a really disturbing case of a teenager who found a decapitated head in a wooded area. And one of the weirdest parts of this case is that it might not even be a homicide. It sounds weird to think about finding a head in a wooded area and it not immediately have been cut off of a person, but this story is just outrageous. And if you think that's outrageous, that's not even the most outrageous part of the story, believe it or not. We also have a couple cases in the gross room. This Forensic Friday this week was about being buried alive and how we could tell the difference if someone was buried alive or if they were buried after they were killed. So all that and more in the gross room. Check it out for $5.99 a month.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
Okay. Fake baby.
This story's been all over TikTok. I've been seeing it everywhere, basically. And then a couple of you sent it to me, so I was like, you know what? I don't know if I should believe it or not. I have to wait until like some type of news article comes out. And sure enough, one did pretty quickly. And I was excited to break it down. This was the other story I was saying reminded me of the episode with Dr. Leslie Dobson.
Okay.
All right, so let me break it down. In Scotland, this woman named Kira Cousins allegedly faked a pregnancy by wearing a fake bump and claimed she gave birth earlier this month, only for her family to find out the baby was one of those weird reborn dolls.
We've had a couple stories about these reborn dolls on the show, and they're all weird. Remember the one lady that like breastfed them?
Yes.
They are so weird. I don't really understand. I mean, I guess they say that they're created for people that might
like grieving mothers
and stuff. I don't really understand the point, and I think there's a certain kind of weirdness if you have one of these things, and they're really expensive.
I'm kind of questioning the intelligence level of everybody involved in this story because I've been seeing some footage and it's unbelievable. So
wait, there's actual footage of what this woman looked like with her fake pregnancy?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's so obvious.
I saw a clip from her baby shower and immediately she's wearing this super tight dress, and immediately when she turned around, I was like, you could see the straps from the fake belly.
So one of her friends did say, I knew it was fake all along. She's been a liar her whole life, but I didn't want to be the one to come out to say it because everyone would have thought that I was the jerk. And it's true. Like if she went up there and said that,
you look like a jerk, because who does that? So, like, you making the accusation makes you look like horrible.
It's really scary that someone would go to such depths to carry on a lie, especially like you can carry, the people that like fake having cancer.
Yeah.
You could tell everybody you have cancer and then you could get treatment and then you could say, "Oh, the chemotherapy worked and I no longer have cancer." And you could collect a bunch of money and like I guess there's a possibility that nobody would ever figure it out. Because with cancer, it doesn't always result in death. There's not always an end result, right? Or they vary. With pregnancy, it always ends in a baby. So, how are you going to fake something that is alive? You know what I mean?
Well, this is why I'm questioning the intelligence of people. But hold on, let me go back to the lights she took first. So she's wearing the fake belly, which we talked about in that other story with Dr. Leslie. Also, she posted all these scans. She had videos of the baby kicking, which I assume were either made via AI or she just pulled other
She just took it
videos
off
of
of
people
somebody
wearing
else's.
neutral
Yeah.
clothing. And then she even provided doctor updates claiming that the baby had a heart defect. So then what I'm seeing on TikTok, what happened, so this is, I guess this is all unconfirmed, but like this in particular is the biggest red flag. She said she was having a fight with the baby's father, so she decided to give birth alone. I'm sorry, but like no matter how big of a fight I'm getting with my husband or anybody I know that's having a baby, somebody's gonna come to the hospital and see you for giving birth. You're not just gonna be alone there for, what are you in the hospital for, 2 to 3 days normally
Yeah, it
after giving
depends.
birth?
Well, it could be short if you have a like uncomplicated vaginal birth, but
So then she's sending the babies pictures of the baby to family members. And then she's showing the baby to family members. And they said they started getting suspicious because the baby was cold and wasn't making any movement or wasn't making any noises.
how do people live?
So this is
I
where I'm
just, like, can
questioning
you
these
imagine
people.
experiencing this in real life? Like, think about this for a second. Like, it's just so outrageous that someone was presenting a doll as real and also assuming she had a shower and everything. Like, why does she want all these gifts for a baby that doesn't even exist, that she doesn't need them for? It's just so weird.
She's clearly a pathological liar and clearly on the verge of mental illness because exactly
She's not
why would
on
you want
any
all this
verge.
stuff?
There's no verge. She's a full-on crazy
Well,
person.
exactly. So then I guess everybody started getting suspicious about it, and then her mom busted in her house and found the doll in her bedroom, and that's when she admitted it. So then after that, she texted the child's dad and said the baby died.
I have a theory.
Happens in people's lives.
I have a theory. The Reborn Company is going out to people and having them say to them, listen, we're going to pay you a ton of money to make up the most outrageous story with these babies in order to get publicity for it. It's the only thing that makes sense. Like, they went to somebody before and was like, okay, you just go online and say that, we'll give you $2,000. And you go online
Allegedly.
and you go online and, yeah, allegedly, you go online and say that you stick your boob in this fake doll's mouth and it's going to go viral and our name Reborn's going to be all over the place. Then this time it's like, you know what, okay, we've seen it diminish in sales. Let's give another person a couple $1,000s to make up this outrageous story. Like, I just can't believe that this stuff is happening in real life.
So there's all these other videos popping up, which I don't know if they're AI or they're really her, but it's allegedly her addressing it, and she just keeps going, yeah, I'm sorry for what I did.
You know
But
what the saddest?
obviously no remorse.
The saddest part of life right now is that from now until the day that we die, we'll constantly be saying, I don't know if this is real or AI.
Yeah.
Like,
It is scary.
so like, what's the point of life? Like, that you don't know what's real and what's fake. It's just including a baby, I suppose.
And that's why I wanted to point out that this story is primarily circulating on TikTok, but now real news outlets are covering it. But I do have this inner feeling at the same time that the whole thing is fake because it's so outrageous. I can't believe it.
It has to. I hope it is. I hope for humanity, for everything. Well, We talked about, I mean, this is a little bit different, but the case that we had with Joe Jackalone last week about a woman who, I mean, she was really pregnant and she really had a miscarriage, but she gave the dead fetus to her ex in a cooler to get back at him. I mean, listen, like, women fake pregnancies. This has been going on since the beginning of time.
Well, yeah, and I want to say too, like to your point that you made earlier, there are people in the comments on these videos saying, "Who cares? She got famous off of it."
What is she?
So
Yeah, but like, is that what the goal of life is to become famous?
yeah, but like you're famous for faking a pregnancy. Like it's not like you got famous for doing anything
Good.
good or stupid like
Yeah.
dancing. You're the girl that faked pregnancy. This story is just absolutely so bizarre. And like when I see pictures that she's allegedly sending of this baby to her family members, I'm like, are these people also not smart that they can't tell in the photos it's obviously not a real baby?
Well, it's just the same as we talk about in lots of different cases. It like what was that one girl's name? Lakin Snelling.
Yeah.
Remember the one recently, the cheerleader that had her baby and killed it? It seems like everyone around her was like, she's definitely pregnant, but like nobody wanted to say anything because it to be the rare chance that you were wrong about something that was very obvious in front of your face was too scary for them to bring up. And it's the same in this case. Like, to accuse a woman that's pregnant of not being pregnant is like, it's kind of like crossing a really big line that if you're wrong, that's not cool.
Do you think there's a possibility that she really got pregnant and had a miscarriage and just was like, I'll just get pregnant again really quick, right?
Or yeah, like, or she had the miscarriage and she just felt she liked the attention she was getting from it and just didn't tell anybody. And there's lots of possibilities, but
I mean, she also could have just totally made it up out of nowhere. But what I just don't understand, I understand.
Did she also not have sex with the dude the entire time? Because like, if she was naked, it would have been obvious. I didn't even think about that. Like, he never saw her naked the whole time she was pregnant.
And I understand women get away with this for a long time because they could just be like, oh, I go to the ultrasounds by myself, whatever. But like once the hospital was, oh, I gave birth by myself, I was like, okay, either your family really sucks or like there's something fishy here. And then people are holding this doll and saying, oh, it was cold because it's not alive.
See, that's how she ruined it. She should have put one of those hand warmer things in the blanket.
She clearly wasn't.
She really gave it away. They wouldn't have noticed when the kid was 4 years old and still rubber.
Unbelievable. All right, let's wrap up with this funeral home story. So, an LA County funeral home is being sued by a family after they presented the wrong body in a casket during a memorial, and the distress caused another loved one to have a heart attack at the funeral.
I swear we talked about something like this before. I swear we did. I can't remember where, and I couldn't find it, but I feel like that we've talked about this before. But he likely had what we call a broken heart disease. Remember we've talked about this before, that this can happen under severe emotional distress. It's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, and the reason it's called that is because the heart makes a very unusual shape that causes it to squeeze in a very unusual way. It weakens the chambers, and it looks like what's called a takotsubo pot, which is a Japanese fishing pot that catches an octopus. So that's why it got that name. But it happens under severe emotional distress that your fight or flight hormones get released really fast, and they could be toxic on the heart muscle, as well as it could cause coronary artery spasms. So it's not typical of what you would see with a heart attack, for example, but it could also induce something if this guy had an underlying heart condition as well. And I mean, we've talked about definitely on the show multiple times of people going into a funeral viewing and it not being their family member. And I could imagine that that's just a severe emotional distress of, even though you've already lost them and they're dead, just being like, well, who is this and where's my loved one? That time period when they're missing and you don't know where they're at, is equally as devastating to a person.
Well, think about this too, because it took the funeral home over an hour to locate his body. And then they were seriously downplaying it to being a scheduling error that they made. And then even though this funeral cost $20,000, they were like, we'll give you $200 refund. So I think in general,
That's so insulting.
it's so upsetting when it's not the right person. And then on top of that, you're having these people, we were talking about this last week when you like go to the doctor and they tell you all this money that you weren't expecting. And then your blood pressure is so high, you feel like you're going to have a stroke. And like, I could understand that. So it's like not only distressing, you're there for a horrible reason, you're grieving. And then this company's being a total asshole and just blowing you off.
Well, good. I hope their negative press is. I would like if I was reading about a specific funeral home doing something like that, and especially it wasn't like, oh, he's in the back and we switched the bodies. They brought them into another room and they were like, yeah, that's still not him. It was like there was a way too
Unbelievable.
long of a period of like, where is our nephew and our family member right now? Like, no.
No, it's
And he was
100% unacceptable.
the guy who died was my age, right? He was like in his mid 40s.
Yeah, important to note, however, that the uncle that had the heart attack did survive.
Yeah, he did. Thank God. But what I'm saying though is like the guy who was in the casket or supposed to be in the casket was a younger person. So
Yeah.
that is upsetting too. It's not like it was 98-year-old grandpa that like had a good life and we all expected him to die. It was probably an unexpected death to begin with.
Oh, no, 100%. All right, let's move on to your comments and questions. Instagram has been worse than ever, so if you guys have a pressing question, I would encourage you to email it to stories@motherknowsdeath, along with any comments or contributions to stories you've heard, whatever you want to say. All right, first, have you ever seen a hide? I don't know if I can say this.
Hydatidiform mole.
Hydatidiform mole. This listener is saying, my mother had one that they thought was her 5th child. I believe she had false labor at 5 months when they found it. My dad was relieved that he didn't have to get a bigger house.
So yeah, I have seen it, and it's kind of cool from a scientific perspective to see it. Of course, in a situation where a person thinks that they're having a baby, it's definitely not cool. But what happens is that it's an abnormal fertilized egg that implants into the uterus and causes a mass to form instead of either a normal pregnancy or the placenta growing correctly. So there's 2 different kinds that you could have. So you could have a complete mole, which is when a fertilized egg contains 2 copies of the chromosome from the father only and not the mother. So no baby grows, and instead of a placenta, it just is like a sack of grapes that it looks like a bunch of cysts. A partial one is a fertilized egg that has a normal set of chromosomes from the mother and 2 sets from the father. So there's 69 chromosomes instead of 46. And those cases are even more sad because in those cases a fetus can grow, but the placenta is just basically a cluster of grapes and it doesn't function as a normal placenta, and therefore the fetus can't grow because it doesn't have a normal placenta.
All right, 2. Who does the cleanup on a road after a bad wreck? Some of the pics you post are really messy, and how is the cleanup done?
You know what else I want to mention about the molar pregnancy? If you have a molar pregnancy, you're at an increased risk to have another one. And in rare cases, you could get something called an invasive mole, where that tissue that's in there can turn to cancer, and you could get like a pregnancy related cancer that's called choriocarcinoma. It's like a really really rare, but I've seen that as well. Okay, on to the next. You're saying what happens.
I'll read it again. What does the cleanup on a road? Who does the cleanup on a road after a bad wreck? Some of the pics you post are really messy, and how is the cleanup done?
I don't know at all, really. I mean, the medical examiner's office would collect all of the body parts. So if someone gets hit by a truck and they're smeared across the road, they're going to pick up as many of the body parts as possible, put them in a body bag, bring them to the medical examiner's office. I don't know. I mean, I know my husband's a firefighter. There's been cases where he's been called to like spray blood off the street with the hose. I don't know if that's standard. I have no
Well,
idea.
I would think for maybe highways and stuff, there's a designated maintenance crew that would have to
I mean, there's
report to it,
definitely
but
people. I mean, you've seen. I just saw a deer that. I mean, they could be the size of a human smeared across the road. There's people that do roadkill for sure, but I don't know if they would be the same people that would clean up after something like that. It's just a little bit of a different situation because the roads normally close down for hours and they're investigating and trying to find out what happened and look for skid marks and this and that, where the body was hit, where it flew to, body parts flown all over the place and that. So I really have no idea. But I would think after an accident like that, especially investigating it for hours and you have blood and tissue that's dried on the road, the only way to really get that up would be with a higher powered hose.
well, like around here anyway, we have that company Serve Pro too, and they do deal with demolition and cleanups and crime scene cleanup. So maybe they would get a company like that because it's not like, I mean, obviously animals are getting killed in the road often, but I think I see their blood left there often. But I think if it was a human, they're gonna get a special company to come in because it's a little more disturbing for people.
If anybody knows, let us know.
Let us know. All right, this last email is from our listener named Joe. I travel a lot with my sons for appointments since we live in a rural area, like 2.5 to 3.5 hours one way. My main go-to podcast on these drives is MKD. Usually my sons, who are 13, 8, and 5, are on game things or tablets, so I assume they never really pay attention much. I'm a licensed vet tech and we breed horses, so science death are treated very normally and openly as my kids have seen births and deaths firsthand since they were babies. One particular trip, my husband went with me and our two youngest. I had paused the podcast to talk to him and then got distracted playing on my phone and forgot to unpause. My 8-year-old from the back seat said, "Mom, are you going to play Mother Knows Death?" It surprised me. She said, "Do you like MKD?" He smiled and said, "Yeah, they're my favorite. They talk about science and interesting things." I turned the podcast back on and noticed he put his tablet down and was listening. He's ADHD and can be pretty restless and difficult, so to have him set down a tablet is a positive change. I also should note my 13-year-old is also a fan. My 5-year-old enjoys the talking and usually has a question or two, but doesn't understand a lot of it. I think you've gained a longtime listener and enthusiast. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, that's
so cute.
It is so cute. Hi guys, did she say that their names in it or
No, but she'll have to play this for them because we love to hear that. It's super cool, and to think we have the power to have a child put a tablet down. It's incredible.
If only I could get that power for my own child. I'm like
We're-
the whole ADHD thing. I'm like, girl, I feel you with my one kid. Jesus, oh my God, the kids can't sit down.
Somebody at our live show asked if the kids thought we were cool or something, or if they thought I was cool, and I was like, no, they think we're both losers. Like, they want nothing to do with anything we say, which is so funny.
Yeah.
But that was a very sweet
It is
email.
funny because when we, like, Gabe and I bring the kids to school almost every single day that he's not at work or something and pick them up at the same time, and we'll be pulling up to the school to drop them off, and the kids will be like, when you pull up and they're all standing out front of the door, they're like, pull up. We don't want to get out right here. And we're like, why? You don't want to be seen with us? And then they get out of the car and me and Gabe just look at each other and we're like, they don't think that we're cool at all, like, compared to other people. Like, they just don't even care, like, about us at all. They just think that we're total dorks. Like, what could you do to be cool to a kid? I don't know.
I have no
Just not
idea.
be their parent. That's it. Like, there's
Exactly. Or don't be their older sister who they should think is the coolest person in the world. Instead, they just make fun of me every day.
You are an easy target.
I have an easy target. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. We are going to have a very special episode for you tomorrow with one Joseph Scott Morgan. We cannot wait for you to hear it.
Yes, you guys it's really good. I love him so much. He's just, him and his wife, Kim, they're just the best. And I just love them so much. And you guys are
They're
going
the
to love
loveliest
it.
family.
And he's got some little tidbits that are very interesting, as usual.
No, it's going to be so great. So please head over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, maybe not the concerns part, please email us at stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
All right, see you guys. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.